to have the one offer I had kind of slipping away, it seems, because of something I said in the media. I didn't know how to take that. All right. Thank you so much for subscribing to the Boyd Football Academy YouTube channel. I just wanted to make a video for you, all of my subscribers so far, and explain really what it is that I'm trying to bring to you with this channel. I think first and foremost, I want to thank my wife, Joanna, where I am today and where I was when I met that woman, two completely different spots. And because of her, I'm able to be the best man that I can be for my kids. Because of her, I made some of the best choices I've ever made as a man. And because of her, my passion for how I can impact my community is able to come to fruition. That's my partner. That's my ace, and baby, I love you so much. Thank you to my kids who are very coachable and accept coaching. It's not necessarily easy to be walking around with the last name Boyd, especially when I'm your father. And my kids do a great job of responding to coaching and going out into the world and trying to be their best. I've got four dynamic kids who all have to be loved differently, and I'm very blessed in that. I want to thank, all the subscribers. Obviously, thank you so much for, believing in what we brought to you the first episode with Chapman and what we're going to bring to you. Pressing subscribe, I don't take that lightly. I want to bring you quality content that helps you parent your athlete better or help an athlete in your life down the right path. Before we keep going down that road, make sure you like, follow, comment, sub, share, all of those things across all social media platforms. So on Instagram, you can follow me at Coach W Boyd. On X, Twitter, I'm followed at Coach W Boyd. On Facebook, you can find us at Boyd Football Academy. And on the web, you can find us at www.boydfootball.com. Couple things as to what you can expect from the channel, the guest. So as I want to bring you guys quality content to take away something for your player, for the player you know. And as we dive into my story and as I'm able to communicate that to you guys, you'll understand why my brain works the way it does and why the passion for this channel even exists. We're going to have everybody from coaches, former players, referees, journalists, attorneys. We're going to have booster club people. We're going to have parents of elite players, just to give you perspective on exactly what it is and what it takes and what intention they put into the rearing of their son or daughter. If you look across the landscape of collegiate athletics, the game has changed tremendously. Those are those players who have the best technique and the most reps under their belt. The players who get to their 10,000 hours faster than anyone else. Those are the players that are going to get the opportunities coming out of high school. Right now, you've got a subset of Division I schools who are going to be decimated, who have been decimated and who will be treated like the junior colleges used to be when it came to recruiting. Whereas a player would go there for 2 years, maybe 3 years, get their grades right, get their grades up, go develop a little bit, and then venture on to that D1 school. That game has changed. So as a former college coach and person who was recruited, just kind of back myself into a college scholarship, once I understood what it was and what it looked like on tape for a kid to be able to produce on a college campus and have immediate impact, that became a goal of mine when I started training kids. You know, obviously, you want to be able to be a varsity starter first. That's what matters most. And we'll get into those stories here in just a minute. But you want to be able to be a varsity starter, put it on tape, and then be able to go and get recruited based off of your productivity. No amount of social media likes, viral videos, hype will replace you being able to be seen on tape. So we're going to get perspective across many different lenses from many different people to be able to provide you parents with and players with a robust amount of information, motivational, educational, entertaining, hopefully, and, you know, be able to connect on a deeper level. I want to be able to answer everybody's comments, everybody's emails, you know, keep those coming. I would love to hear your suggestions as to what you want to hear, who you want to talk to, what you're dealing with from a player perspective or a parent perspective. So yeah, that would be, those communication lines are open. You could reach me directly at admin@boydfootball.com. Again, that's ADMIN @boydfootball.com. So why I started this podcast? Well, it really stems from my own journey into coaching and the game of football, really. You know, as a youth kid, I didn't, I was growing up in a single parent household. We didn't have really the means to get me to practice and get me to games. So I played very inconsistently as a youth football player. Parents didn't really go to games. My dad was incarcerated the majority of my upbringing. I did have a stepfather. He was a truck driver. So, you know, shout out to Donnie. Thank you for being there. But my mom was the main caretaker, disciplinarian, you know, and decision maker. And so, you know, when it came to what I wanted to do, that was just very much at the end of our priority list. So, you know, fortunately enough, we've gotten enrolled into our Indian tribe, Sac and Fox Nation of Oklahoma. They provided us with some housing on the reservation. When I was about 11 years old, we moved to Shawnee. I finished up 5th grade year there and went into 6th grade and, you know, definitely got recruited to play football. But again, it came down to logistics, how we get him to practice, how often practice is, the cost, when games are, and unfortunately, or fortunately, you know, the decision was for me to not play. So, you know, my mother was very much involved into my academics and my schooling in my elementary years, but as I got into middle school, the effort and the intention kind of waned. I struggled academically, not because I couldn't do it, but because there wasn't the accountability of the house making sure I could do it. You know, shout out to a couple teachers that I hope to have on. Mr. Tim McDaniel, my 7th grade math teacher, and my basketball coach, who, after being ineligible my whole 7th grade football season, took it upon himself to help me and spend time with me to get me eligible and showed me some care that I otherwise didn't have. no real coaches stepped up until that point. So shout out Mr. McDaniel. You're part of the reason why I do what I do. Played basketball, didn't really do much in track. My 8th grade year, I transferred to the independent school district that was right across the street from the Indian reservation in which I lived. And just from, all my friends in the neighborhood went to school there. They did not offer football. It was baseball, fall ball, and basketball and track. And, we had a bunch of reservation kids, and we call us Reds kids, and so we had a bunch of Reds kids on the team, and none of us we could all play baseball, but it wasn't our passion. Basketball was the passion. So none of us got to play baseball that fall year because nobody turned in the physicals, and we really wanted to play basketball. So fortunately enough, we had a very good basketball team. Again, my grades struggled because my mom wasn't necessarily involved. Excuse me. And I had a couple teachers, male teachers there, who saw the potential. One being Mr. Stanley Beasley. If you've ever been around Shawnee, you've ever been around North Rock Creek, Stanley Beasley is a living legend, one of the most impactful people you ever meet in your life. He was a Vietnam vet, is a Vietnam vet, and a prisoner of war, former prisoner of war, written several books, and was a teacher who said, looked at me, a big 6'1", 220-pound, 13-year-old who didn't really have much direction. And he put me on yearbook team, put me on the academic bowl team. Mind you, I had D's, C's, and D's, right? But he knew that I needed to be around a different group of people. And I appreciate that. Stanley Beasley, again, another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. I get into high school. Our program is notoriously mediocre. It's a wrestling school, multiple state champions on that side of the fence. But in football, we were just completely, since the 70s, we had been completely mediocre. And we had a head coach named Brett Winson, who is, I think he's now down at South Grand Prairie somewhere in Texas, or maybe at Denison. I think he's at Denison now. And I remember, being a 14, 15-year-old, 6'3", 295 pounds, again, thinking I'm a basketball player because I haven't played much football. And he finds out that, I have a goal of being the first person in my family to go to college. That was a realistic goal that I vocalized to my counselors, to the teachers at the high school, to the Judge Combs, who, I had some community service to do because I was getting in fights on campus, and, a lot of people who loved me up and in the community. And Coach Whitson was one of those. He steps to me. He tries to bring me up to the varsity level. When I'm a freshman, I escape out the back door because I want to go play basketball. He pulls me to the side and he's like, "Do you want to go to college?" And my answer was, pretty simple. Yes, I do. Do you think you're going to go to college playing basketball? You're 6'3", 300 pounds. And I said, well, I guess not. And he said, you're going to come play 3 technique for me, and I'll help you get a college scholarship. The rest was history. I didn't end up playing 3 tech a whole lot, but I was a valuable piece of the football team, and we were able to win a state championship when I was a senior. And a bunch of guys who people had wrote off, a bunch of guys who grew up with mediocrity all around them, understood what it looked like to look at each other in the face and say we were going to be accountable to each other. We were going to work hard for each other. And we were going to show up every day, 100% attendance at Summer Pride. We did all those things. And a you know, what was it, a 7-3 Shawnee Wolves football team ends up going 11-3 and winning the state championship. And one of the greatest moments of my life. During that time, I was going through recruiting, and I originally committed to Oklahoma State. Went up to a camp the summer before my senior year, ran a nice 40. Les Miles was there, pulls me to the side, looks me and my mom in the face, and says, "Hey, we got it." Pulls me out of the auditorium, like the visit at the end with the recruiters and the administration people after the camp, and my guy, the coach I was talking to, Coach Wickline at the time, and Josh Henson. Shout out Coach Henson, one of the better O-line coaches in the country right now. Both of those guys came and got me, pulled me and my mom out of the auditorium, and Coach Miles offered me right there in the hallway. I wasn't prepared for an offer. I did not have coaching, not Coach Whitson's fault, you know, not my position coach's fault, but I just did not have any coaching as to what the next steps should be or what the opportunity was. Not that I missed it. I ended up in a great place. I ended up getting offered by the University of Tulsa, go hurricane, rain cane, and, had a great career. But, media. Right? Let's talk about that real quick. This is a very significant portion of my story. Robert Allen gives me a call, and I'm going to the Sooners game as a Sooner recruit, being committed to Oklahoma State. But, I'm a kid from Shawnee. It's my first time ever going to the Palace, right? So, yes, I'm going to go. I'm going to be in attendance, and I'm going to go in the locker room and talk to Tommy Harris and Coach Mike Stoops, and, anyhow, so Robert Allen gives me a call, and he's doing interviews, and he's like, "Hey," he just gets off the phone with Justin Waller out of Ponca City, great tight end. Justin, if you're watching, man, you're an awesome player. Good buddy of mine. We played in the Oil Bowl together. And Robert gives me a call, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, what do you think the game's going to turn out like?" So mind you, this is Bedlam 2002. No, sorry, Bedlam 2003. And the Sooners were like 59-0 or something like that at home. Haven't lost a game at home in so many years. They just played A&M the week before and smacked them like 77-0. Their football team was one of the best teams in the country that year. And I was honest. I wasn't standing there in front of my mom. I wasn't standing there in front of my coaches or my dad. Nobody was there to help coach me through this situation. Who knows? It's part of my personality is just to be brutally honest and say what I feel. So he asked me what I thought the outcome of the game was, and I just, quite frankly, told him I don't know how anybody's going to beat the Sooners in Norman this year. Probably not the thing to say as a Oklahoma State recruit. So my recruitment got rocky. Keith Patterson, who's now the head coach at Abilene Christian, go Wildcats, he calls me. That press comes out, and he's asking me about how the relationship's going with Oklahoma State, who's talking to me. And I tell him I hadn't talked to him. I hadn't talked to him since I went to the Barry Sanders Hall of Fame game. I hadn't talked to him since before I talked to Robert Allen. And he calls me back with Coach Wells, Matt Wells, who former head coach at Utah State, great former head coach at Texas Tech. He was the tight ends coach at the time at the University of Tulsa. And they call me, and they both on the phone. We three-way, and he says, typically what happens when we stop talking to recruits and we don't answer phone calls or you don't get any communication from us, that's a big sign that we're not recruiting you anymore. Man, big blow. Here was my shot. Here was my shot to go to the bright orange, the brightest orange in the country, right? And Tatum Bell, Zach Robinson, also Poe guy. Those are all the guys that were there at that time. Sam Mays, Seymour Shaw, from Shawnee. There was some comfort there. And to not have all my offers lined up and to have the one offer I had kind of slipping away, it seems, because of something I said in the media, I didn't know how to take that. I didn't know who to point the blame at, except I was regretful of the things that I said to the GoPokes.com reporter. Fortunately enough, the University of Tulsa was on a hot streak. They were, the previous 2 years, 2001, 2002, they had won a combined 2 games. And I didn't even know Tulsa had a football team, quite honestly. Growing up, I didn't really play football that much, so I knew OU and I knew of OSU, but I really didn't know the college football landscape until I went through the recruiting process. And so I think they ended up being like 8-5 that year, going to the Humanitarian Bowl, having a really good football team. And Coach Steve Crackthorpe was the coach at the time. And I remember knowing the only way that I graduated high school was the fact that I had relationships with all my teachers. Shout out Mrs. Sherry Bryant, the GOAT of all English teachers as far as I'm concerned. Someone who held me accountable, but I also had a great relationship with. I remember going into her class as a senior, and my academic advisors telling me from universities that I needed to pull a certain GPA, I needed to get a certain grade in senior English, and I certainly relayed that to Mrs. Bryant. Yo, Mrs. Bryant, hey, look, I need this B. Yeah, okay, you're gonna have to earn that B, and she really made me earn it. But till this day, when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame at Shawnee in 2016, I had one teacher show up, and it was Mrs. Bryant. So again, you're another reason why I do what I do. So I was going through the recruiting process, and I remember going to OSU, going to all the classes, significant student to teacher ratio, imbalance, in some of those classes, right? Sometimes you had 200 kids to a professor. And for me, because I graduated, it took a lot for me to graduate high school. I had to build relationships with people. I was really good with talking to the counselors and all those kind of things. I knew when I visited Tulsa, and there was sometimes, 12 students to a professor, that was the environment that I felt like I could thrive in. At least I could be successful in. Mind you, as a private institution, I had to write an essay to actually get in, and thank the Lord, I'm somewhat well read and can write, but man, it was almost too close. And in December of 2003, we had just won the state championship. I committed to the University of Tulsa, and a lot of my guys that were in my wedding, a lot of my roommates, a lot of my best friends and pals, a lot of guys who are now coaching around the state were on that visit, and we all committed, and undoubtedly changed the course of the University of Tulsa history, football program for sure, and the landscape of the university as a tangible thing. When we all showed up, you had 2-story high jail block, project looking apartments. Now the campus is very beautiful from the work that we put in. So little did I know at that time that we were going to be a group that helped change the course of that program's history. But I just knew that it was the place for me. That's my recruiting journey. That's how I, lucked my way, I guess, into a football scholarship. I didn't really work hard. I was just naturally talented. I had coaches and people who believed in me and teachers who believed in me and held me accountable and pulled me along. But I did not get there by the work that I put in outside of what was prescribed, whatever people told me that I should do, right? So if a coach told me that I should have come to 100% of the summer workouts, that's just what I did. But I did not do anything extra outside of that. That's just not the culture that I was brought up in. So as I went through my football career at the University of Tulsa, came in as a D lineman. I was slated to be the first freshman D lineman to start at Tulsa. I want to say in 10 years or something like that, 15 years or something like that. Kirk Frederick, shout out Coach Fred at Union. He was the last, and from Shawnee Boy too. So he was the last D lineman to start as a freshman at TU, and I was slated to be the next. Very inconsistent my freshman year, really overwhelmed with the nature of being a D1 starter and the class schedule and going to workouts and being accountable, just new to me. And so I found myself on academic probation for the first, 4, 5, 6 semesters I was in school. Had to take a lot of summer classes, just to stay eligible to play. My sophomore year, a lot more productive. Have a really stellar game against the University of Oklahoma in Norman. Should have beat them. Picked Rhett Bomar off twice. Our defense did. That year, we were the #1 offense in the country. I was started at nose guard and defensive end. We ended up winning the Conference USA Championship our first year in the conference that year. So, again, hadn't been done. Conference championships hadn't been won at Tulsa. That's not something that we were synonymous with. But then, that one started it all, right? My junior year, we were a really, really talented team. We should have been better than we were. And we kind of knew Coach Cragthorpe was on his way out because he had some offers the year before and decided to stay. We were mediocre at best. I think we won 9 ball games. We should have been conference champions that year, but we weren't. Coach Cragthorpe leaves. Our old defensive coordinator, Todd Graham, comes back from Rice and brings Gus Malzahn as his offensive coordinator and Herb Hand as the offensive line coach. And I'm, slated to be a starter. My career is almost over, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to go to the league. Don't know how. We weren't a program that sent a lot of people to the NFL, so that wasn't a program that was an aspect of our program that was developed just yet. And, I didn't know. So I just went with the workouts that were prescribed and kept being me. In those workouts in that spring of my junior year, getting ready to go into my senior year, Coach Malzahn would always be watching me in workouts. He's always chewing on some gum or some straw or something like that. And he calls everybody biggin'. Okay, so if you ever talk to him outside of like a formal, he's calling somebody biggin'. I don't care. It could be the equipment guy. That's just how he talks. So he's like, "Hey, biggin', come here real quick. You move pretty good." Gus is looking at me in spring drills, and he's asking me. He's like, "Hey, you ever played offense before?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I played tight end in high school. First time I ever touched the ball, scored a touchdown." Y'all don't know what he's thinking. I'm just trying to brag, right? And he says, we need a left tackle to run this offense. We need a left tackle who can get out and run. We need a left tackle who's smart, knows the game. And, if you're interested, man, we can get you with Coach Hand and work on the board a little bit. Now, I talked to Coach Graham a little bit, and Coach Graham was like, "You've been the best offensive lineman on campus since you were a freshman. But because of our lack of depth on defense, I had to play there. And I felt like it was the best opportunity for me to switch over. And, it was breaking up the monotony. I knew the game. I knew how to play. I knew defensive structures. I knew offensive structures and formations. So yeah, it made a good, transition. Transition in the spring, and then we go into my senior year. Another reason why I coach and why I train and why I speak to kids. We play Louisiana Monroe the first game of the season. I have a high ankle sprain at the end of the game. The next game is BYU, and the next game is OU, Sam Bradford, Joaquin Iglesias, Gerald McCoy. Really good football team. And I was struggling with my mental health about going to treatment and it being my last year. Quite frankly, I was thinking like a victim. Why me? Poor me. Why did this happen to me? And I remember Coach Malzahn was in charge of my discipline because I kept missing treatment. And so I had to roll on the field like 100 yards down and back, 5 times or something like that. And I remember when we were done, he looked me in the face and he said, how you respond to this circumstance in your life is going to be just like you respond to all these kind of circumstances in your life. You must decide how you're going to respond to this. Because if you respond the wrong way, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. And so I took my butt to treatment. I got healthy for the team. We ended up being the number 1 offense in the country, the first offense ever to throw for 5,000 yards, have 3 1,000-yard receivers, and a 1,000-yard rusher. Some notable players from that team. You've got Terrian Adams, who's the all-time leading rusher. I think he's still the all-time leading rusher at TU, one of my personal friends. He's the head coach at John Marshall High School. Go Bears. Shout out TA, man. You're going to do a great job. You've got Brennan Marion, who's the current offensive coordinator at UNLV, one of the hottest names in D1 college football coaching, going to be a head coach very soon. The Milkman, he's got the NCAA record for yards per reception. I'm not misquoting him. He's probably going to text me and be like, yo, get my stats right. But I think he had something crazy like 40 receptions for 1,200 yards or something like that. Paul Smith, 7th 5,000-yard passer ever in the history of the game. Warfel Trophy Award winner, consensus Conference USA Player of the Year, first quarterback to throw for 13 straight games for 300 yards. Great man, great leader, great arm. Rod Thomas who, it's my guy, offensive coordinator at John Marshall. He was our right tackle. Justin Morrissey, offensive coordinator at Owasso High School. I could go on and on. Moten Hopkins, one of the most decorated players from that team. Won a couple Grey Cups, I think, in the Canadian Football League. Now as a business owner. Shout out Moten, one of the really great people in my life. Charles Clay. Charles Clay was a freshman on this team. He was one of those 1,000-yard receivers, but he played fullback tight end, man. I couldn't believe it. Ended up having a really nice NFL career, played for the Dolphins, and I want to say the Patriots for a little bit. But Chris Chamberlain from Bethany, Oklahoma, one of my good pals, good buddies. Played in the NFL for 5 or 6 years. Really, really talented football player. Really great man. So just to name a few, let's talk about the coaches on that team. Mike Norvell, the head coach at Florida State now, he was a GA. He was the wide receiver GA on that team. As I mentioned before, Herb Hand, the offensive line coach, needs no introduction. If you're a football fan, you know the name Herb Hand. He's one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. He works at University of Central Florida down there with Coach Malzahn right now. Coach Malzahn, Matt Wells, Keith Patterson, Todd Graham, Derek Jones. I could get Mark Nelson, Paul Randolph. I could keep going, man. Spencer Leftwich, Steve Cragthorpe. I mean, we had so many coaches who were great leaders of men that I just count myself blessed to go through there. Didn't have a great opportunity to go to the NFL, not because of I wasn't good enough, but because, again, the work ethic wasn't there to deserve an opportunity. And yet, again, another reason why I train kids and I spend time helping develop football players because there wasn't enough information around back then for me to even advance my skills if I wanted to. YouTube was in its infancy. Social media was in its infancy. If you really wanted to train and get better, you had to go and do it on your own or have a coach who was willing to spend time outside of, when he's with his family or something like that to come do it with you. So, that's why I started the podcast. What is Boyd Football Academy? Boyd Football Academy helps young football players obtain their goals and dreams. We help generate confidence through preparation, and we develop character. So young men, when they leave my presence and they leave my coaching, hopefully they're better kids with their parents, better players on the field, and ultimately becoming better men. I've trained greatness. I've seen greatness up front. I've seen very talented players not make it, and I've seen very talented players, achieve their wildest dreams. I've been fortunate enough to train some very elite guys, but the majority of the people that I train are kids who want to work hard and are trying to become varsity starters. And I used to coach NAIA and D2 football, high school football, youth football. A lot of the players that I recruited are the record holders at their universities. So being able to see it on tape and being able to recruit players who put it on tape and then being able to coach them to success while they're on university, that was like one of my gifts. Unfortunately, I went through some, personal stuff where I went through a divorce and I wanted to be in my kids' lives versus pursuing my football career, and that's what kind of helped spur my training company. Since I've been in sales and started multiple companies and been very successful in that, and have really just wanted to always start this channel to be able to provide all the wisdom and understanding that I get of the game and give that down to you. Boyd Football Academy takes kids of all ages, wherever they're at, and really helps them get confident as little boys through preparation and training and hard work. The common theme that I get from most parents when their kid leaves me is that my son is more confident. My son is more eager to do things that I ask him to do. He's a better kid because he doesn't want to talk to you. Those are all things that are all common, right? And that's what I want to provide, is that kind of value. So when I sat down and me and my wife were planning about this show, this podcast, I thought, who is my first customer? And who is my first subscriber? Who's the subscriber that I want? And I want parents, if you're a parent and you have a son or daughter and you think that they may have the athletic ability to go on and do some really great things, you're probably looking for some tips as to how to get them to the best situation for them. If you're a player, you're probably looking for drills to get yourself better, some understanding and deep dives into film, diagrams, defensive breakdown, offensive breakdown, so you can just better better your skills and sharpen your sword. If you're a coach, probably looking for resources and templates to be, stay better organized, be able to communicate very effectively and efficiently with your parents, check out equipment, organize special teams, whatever that is. And so I want to be able to provide those materials and those references and those modules to you, parents, players, and coaches. And hopefully you find a lot of value in the guests that we have, the people that we bring on that share their insights and wisdom as it pertains to student athletes. And you find a lot of value in the resources that we provide. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you locking in and staying in with me and going on this journey. Again, we'll be dropping episodes every Sunday. I appreciate the subscription. Go ahead and like, share, comment. Please comment. I respond to all of them, and let me know what you want to see. I can get, I've got a Rolodex of people in this game that we can talk to. So please give your comments, share your thoughts, and hopefully we can connect soon. Thank you so much. Be blessed and be better every day. Peace.